Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christy, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so excited that you have decided to click start again today, and it would do me such a huge favor if you would just follow this podcast. Share it with your friends. This is a place where you can get a shot of B12 and some new ideas for how to do things quickly, easily, and super practically. Today is by far no exception to that rule. We have with us Lior Arussy. And Lior comes to us from a lot of different angles. He is a customer experience and strategist executive, which sounds fancy. He's an author of many books. He's a father of 5, a grandfather of 5, a chocolatier, somebody who absolutely loves great chocolate, and he's a watch collector because time is super important. Lior, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
I am so excited to get to know you. This is going to be an absolute blast. I have no doubt, because you are an author of many things, that you have some quick and easy ways to get people excited. So if you only had 30 seconds to get somebody to know that they wanted to listen to this entire podcast, what would you say to them?
What I would say to them is a very simple question. What is your choice in life? Do you really want to blame others, or do you want to lead your life? Do you want to live life with victory or live life by victimhood? That's your choice.
Live life with victory or live it in victimhood. What a powerful way to get us started. Okay, friends, you better stick around because this is about to get real. Lior, you have written several books, as we mentioned, and one of them, the most recent one, really does talk about this exact topic. The idea that we have a choice. We get to narrate our story, and that's what you help people do. But before we jump into all of that, you got here somehow. How did you end up an author who recognized the value of getting out of our own way?
I spent the last 3 decades as part of my consulting work in transformation. Transformation is a big word. Companies do big transformations. But at the end of the day, when you talk about transformation, you're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of employees who need to now start doing things differently. And they struggle with it. We struggle with change. We have, as human beings, we have a funny relationship with change. We all embrace it as long as we don't have to do it. So we have a very funny relationship with change. And the common practice in the industry is that people are afraid of the unknown of the future. What I found out in my work with over 400 transformations with some of the major brands, from MasterCards to Delta Airlines and others, is that the issue is not in the future. The issue is actually in the past. What happened is every time we hear the word change, we as human beings equate it with a negative judgment on our past performance. So if I tell someone, oh, we're now going to use this new technology, that means what I've used for the last 20 years was bad. So that now is starting to work in our head. And we're saying that means that the last 20 years I used the wrong technology or the wrong tool. That is too much for me to bear. So what happened is, because people struggle with how do we bring that chapter to an end so we can start a new chapter, they get stuck in the old chapter and they fight change and future in some significant way. I'll give you an example. So I was working with a bank, and the bank is seeing the trend. People are using apps, people are using digital tools. They're no longer coming to the branch, they're no longer going to their cashiers. And what they've experienced is a lot of their bankers were actually fighting the changes and telling customers, don't download the apps, otherwise I'm going to get fired. Don't do online mortgage because I'm going to lose my job. And I remember sitting in a focus group that I've done with some employees, and one of the bankers said to me, look, Mr. Arussy, if you want me to adapt to this and start using the iPad and the app and everything else, I need in writing a guarantee that I'm not going to get fired. And I said to her, I can provide you a guarantee that you will get fired if you won't use the new tools. But then I stepped back. And I said, let's step back for a second. You're feeling threatened by technology. Let's do a small exercise. Why did you join the bank? Because of the technology or the tools? No, I wanted to help people fulfill their dreams through financial means. I said, that doesn't change. Let's separate the mission from the tools. The mission doesn't change. You've been here for 30 years, which means once upon a time you maybe used some abacus or one of those calculators with the strip of paper. Remember those? They didn't define you. You helped that father finance the wedding of his daughter and help him live that day so his daughter will say you're the best daddy in the world. That doesn't change. The mission doesn't change. The tool changed. And what we did is when we split them, it opened up her mind and heart to actually accept new tools that can accelerate her mission. So, what I learned through the process is that what really is stopping people and organizations from embracing the future is by being stuck on an old story and not knowing how to convert that story into new strength, new resilience, and so on and so forth. Hence, we arrive at Dare to Author.
Oh my gosh, what a fascinating explanation of what we all know to be true, right? We're all afraid of change, but it's not so much, you're right, we're wrestling with the path, with the known, right? We're trying to figure out how to reconcile all of this in our brains. I love that you are helping people reconcile and helping people figure out how to move past it instead of being stuck in the idea of it, because change is necessary. It's the only constant, right? Like we have
Absolutely.
to change.
And it's happening faster than ever, which means we don't have the time. Once upon a time, we thought, okay, we'll do one change a year and the rest will be calm waters. It's not. Change is happening in such a fast pace that we need to train a new muscle, which I call change resilience, that's helping us adapt both faster and in larger scope in order to stay relevant as individuals and as professionals in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the image of new muscle, right? That takes a time to build. It's a little uncomfortable. You're going to be sore because you're trying new things. And
Yeah.
as you try those new things, you've got to work all the muscles around it because you can get lopsided too. And you end up with building one thing too much and everything else not enough. So you've written the book on it, so to speak. So you have a new book coming out, or coming out, came out. I
Came
know
out,
I got to read
just
it.
came out. Yeah, just came out.
And this book, Dare to Author, is not about writing a book, it's about writing your life story, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the way I describe Dare to Author, it's the process of converting life experiences into future strength and tools. And let me give you again an example. So during COVID was a period we were all started as victims worldwide. Every authority that we counted on betrayed us. The health system did not know what to do. Academia did not know what to do. Government did not know what to do. The UN did not know what to do. No one knew. We all started as victims.
Mm.
And I had clients calling me and saying, Lior, we don't know what to do. And I said, you know what? Let's start with how do you feel right now? What is the word that explain your feelings? And they shared a variety of words, but ultimately they all consolidated to one thing, which is unprecedented. We're overwhelmed because this is unprecedented. And I said, factually, you're right. Emotionally, we're stuck. Because when you use the term unprecedented, you also say, I'm helpless and I have no tools. So I said, let's go and revisit this statement. And we do that by revisiting the last time you felt unprecedented event hitting your life. And for many of the business people, it was 2008, 2009, the financial crisis. And I said, okay, so you survived it and maybe you thrived it. Let's go revisit it now. Now that it's a little bit behind us, let's go and ask the question, what happened there? How did you feel at that moment? What was the moment of helplessness? What was the moment, the turning moment in which you actually said, I'm going to do something about it? What values of yours and what skills of yours have you activated that allowed you to do that? And what values or paradigms did you abandon because you realized? So we literally wrote the story. We wrote this as a case study. It took us about an hour to 90 minutes. And what they discovered is that they left behind, by not authoring, all the tools that should have helped them with this unprecedented event. Dare to Author is challenging us, even in the unplanned events, to convert them into insights, confidence, capabilities, resilience, that when we look at the next unprecedented, we're saying, hey, bring it on. We've been there before. Unprecedented? Been there, done that. Let's take it. And we are in the process discovering our superpower, which is our unique gift both to ourselves and to the world that allows us to handle those situations better. So this is about future readiness. This is about embracing change with love, because we're not helpless. We're not victims. we are capable, even if the event itself was really not planned by us.
I love your practical solution to a problem that some of us think is insurmountable, right? When we use the word unprecedented, we really are helpless. Oh my gosh, we don't know what to do here, but we do. And so I took a training once called a leader effectiveness training,
Mhm.
LET. And in leader effectiveness training, we got a diagram that stuck with me. And it was about the problem that we're trying to solve for people and the fact that we know this much about their problem. They know everything about their
Mhm.
problem. And so often we come in and try to solve the problem for people, but that's not what you're doing. You're just getting people to look back and say, what solved the problem for you the last time? What gave you the ability to get past the unprecedented thing? I can't think of a leader on this planet who doesn't need that tool in their tool belt because there isn't a business out there that's exactly the way it was. I think Blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
Blockbuster is a perfect example of what you don't do if you evolve, and Netflix is a perfect example of what you do when you do change and you accept that change. So there is a chapter in your book that I really want people to know more about, and that's it starts with good news or bad news. Why don't you tell us a little bit about
For
that?
sure. If I can just build up on what you just
Yeah,
mentioned, the book, every chapter has guiding questions that's supposed to help you reflect and build your own answers to that. So that's exactly what you're referring to. It's
yeah,
not just a book, but really it's a guidebook that can help us build that. So let's talk about the good news, bad news. So it's simply the simple question: who are you? When someone comes to you, and we all have that almost on a daily basis, I've got some bad news and good news. What do you want first? And I've done this exercise so many times. I have universities now doing it at MBA courses, and overwhelmingly 75% or 80% are saying bad news first.
hmm,
And then just the minority is asking for good news. And what I'm trying to analyze for people, as part of the premise of the book, is that if you do not author the story of your life, then it will be authored for you. I'm outlining different prejudice and biases that are forcing us into the story that we don't want to have, like the imposter syndrome and others. And good news, bad news is one of those filters that if you are good news first, you're one person, but if you're in bad news first, you're a different person. And I'm basically describing two possibilities. If you're saying bad news first, your mindset is there is a present situation, there is a crisis, and I need to fix that present situation, which means whatever that situation is, you're not looking at it as an opportunity for growth. You're looking at it more as a maintenance and keeping the current state. If you're good news first, you are a creator, you're not a fixer. Bad news first is a fixer. Creator is a good news first, which means even the bad news, I'm going to look at it and says, okay, where's the opportunity here? What can I do to grow? Creators are looking to explore and leverage opportunities. Bad news first fixers are all about keeping the current versus the exploring the possibilities. And in light of the COVID example we just talked about, so I asked my clients when they came to me with COVID, and I said, what do you want? Do you want to survive or do you want to thrive? And they all said, survive. And I said, why? I said, thrive? How can you think about thriving when the midst of this thing we don't know what's coming? And I said, guys, you all had a strategy and then you got a punch in the face. The
mm,
good news is your competition is on the floor just like you. The only question is not if you're on the floor, not if you're a victim to COVID, but rather how you're going to emerge. If you're going to try to survive, there's a likelihood you will survive. But if you'll try to explore the question and the possibility and say, what else can I do now that the pieces of the puzzles have changed? What opportunities are being created here? You're a good news first. You're a creator. You're not a fixer. And when you're telling me I want to survive, you're a fixer. You're not looking at COVID as an opportunity. You're just looking at it as a threat.
And I want to dig a little deeper into that because I want to know, in your professional opinion, you said about 20% of people are willing to be that, create that good news first kind of person. Do you think that's an innate ability or is that something that can be taught? Because I am a glass half full human. I do look for the good, but I had a tragic event happen to me when I was 19 that forced me into that space. I think I had it always, but I had to make a choice and I chose to look for the good after that event happened. And that has turned me into the human I am at 48. But do you think it can be taught? Does it take a traumatic event? Or are people just born with it?
Okay. So on the scope of nurture versus nature, I'm going to say that if I'm gonna succumb to nature, we're all useless players here. Okay? But let's go back to your
That's a good
half
point.
full. Yeah, well, let's go back to the half full. Uh, Organizations love and individuals love to have philosophical questions about, is it half full or is it half empty? This is the wrong question. This is a glass that needs to be filled. That's the real question. How do we fill the glass? The reality is the glass is not full. And half full may be sufficient for some, and others want it to be full. The question is not philosophically, is it half full or half empty? The question is, what is your choice to fill up this glass? So that's the first.
Oh, I love that. And I've not ever heard it put that way, but I constantly say you can't pour from an empty cup. So to me, that just makes sense. Step one is to get the cup full.
Yeah, we need to fill up the cup. Whatever level of whatever is liquid is in there, we're here to fill up the glass, which means we're here for action. We are not here for philosophy. We're not here to find blame or to assign blame. We're here to take action on the situation. That's step number one. Each and every one of us, Christy, was born with certain circumstances that we do not control. Nobody asks us if we want to be born. Nobody asks us if we want to be born to our parents. Nobody asks us if we want to be born into the city that we are in, or into the school system that we were part of, or into the friends that were sitting next to us in the classroom. There are a lot of unplanned situations. Each and every one of us is given these circumstances. Now, at the heart of my belief, which is what I'm addressing in the book as well, is we all have a gift to give to the world, and we need to let that gift comes out. This is the superpower. This is the way we're going to go through this path and actually make an impact on other people. We are here to make an impact. Hence my chapter on what is your center of gravity. Are you focusing on yourself, or are you focusing on others? So I refuse to accept that nature dictates what we do. Do we have a pre-existing conditions? Yes. We were born to specific situations. You were born where you were born. I was born in a different place. I have different parents than yours, and that shaped a different set of values and shaped a different set of experiences. But in whatever challenge, there is a choice to move forward. I'll share with you a small episode from one of my favorite movies, from Notting Hill, with Julia Roberts and
Yes.
Hugh Grant. And if you remember, there is a dinner there with Julia Roberts, who's portraying this star from Hollywood, and they're sitting and discussing about whose life is more miserable. And then everybody's telling their story, and then she's saying, "What? I don't get a chance." And like, how dare you? You're a star from Hollywood. And then she started talking about her loneliness and her need to keep fit and how difficult the industry is and whatever. And by the time she's telling her story, everybody's silence is, "You won." You know what? Everybody have those things.
Yeah.
Everybody have those things, and even our heroes are human. I talk in the book about Simone Biles' choice in Tokyo to retreat from competing and take care of herself, and that's a true heroism, because she took care of herself in order to come back better, and we saw that in the last Olympic Games. She did come back better. So stop idealizing achievements and start looking at. I talk about the book about envying efforts and struggles as opposed to envying achievements. We think that achievements come to people very easy. It's not. Everybody have their own struggles, and everybody is given some sort of superpower that are the only one who owns that superpower. This is the only story that only they can make or create in the world, and that's our path forward.
Oh, Lior, uh, I'm just speechless. You said so many things just now that I think we all need more of. But the one that stuck with me most is stop idolizing achievements. I am surrounded by achievers, right? Like you tend to gravitate towards those that are moving forward, but it's not about the achievement. It's about the consistency. It's about the work that you put in to get to where you want to be. And I think that the difference is sometimes we get so focused on the goal, we miss the journey, and we don't actually enjoy. Once we're there, we're like, okay, what's the next thing? I don't know if you've read the book, The Gap and the Gain, but in that book, that was a very eye-opening moment for me, that I lived most of my life in the gap, waiting for the next thing, right? Going, oh, but when I release my 100th episode of the podcast, then I will celebrate. No, just celebrate the fact that, hey, you've been consistent. And I have a feeling that people need more of you in their life, period. And so before I haven't even asked you what your definition of productive joy is, but I'm so fascinated by this. I want to stop right this second and say, how would people find you if they need a little more Lior in their world? How might they find you?
Um, my website is very active. It's liorarussy.com, LIORARUSY.com. I'm active on LinkedIn. That's where I put a lot of my latest articles and so on and so forth. And I want to build up on what you said, Christy, because there's one piece that I kind of there was a portion in the book, a small paragraph that was very critical for me to write. When I grew up, I was fascinated by the statement, you can dream it, you can do it.
Mm.
Oh, I thought that was the ultimate American dream. And as you go through, I actually revised that statement in the book. And I said, if you can dream it and you're willing to put the efforts for it and you're willing to pay the price of other things you're going to have to trade off, then you have a better chance of achieving it. But I think sometimes we miss that middle part,
Yeah.
which is the efforts and the trade offs. And we think we can just jump from dreaming straight to achieving, and it's not true. It's
No.
just not true. And I think we tend to oversimplify things. And in today's formal world, everything looks perfect, but we forget that this is a 1 second of somebody's life's picture that is not even representative of all the other misery or tragedy or difficulty that they have. And we tend to live in those small segments of 1 seconds and create FOMOs. And I'm saying the counter to FOMO is fear of missing your own life.
Yeah. Oh, so well said. So I know you mentioned that you have 5 children and 5 grandchildren. I have twins, they're 23, and watching them see us, my husband and I, who have worked really hard to be where we are, but are 5 years ahead of them, and go, I want that. And no, you got to work the crap job. You got to do the
Yeah.
grunt work. You've got to learn. You've got to push. I look back now over my career, and it makes me giggle because in the moment I didn't know that those were the lessons I was learning. And now I know I could not be who I am today had I not gone through all of those steps. And I think that's a very important distinction to make, is that yes, you can dream it and you can achieve it, but you've got to put the work in. You've got to show up. You've got to consistently be there. I have a friend who says that your skills and your habits are what's going to make you successful together. Because you can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to hone it, you're not going to get there. So we
Yeah.
have to back up, because I just had got so enamored with you that I missed the opportunity to ask my favorite question. The podcast is called Productive Joy. And I know what that means to me, but I want to know, when you hear productive joy, what does that mean to you?
So, productive choice for me is doing something with purpose, not necessarily enjoying things. So, for me,
Mhm.
joy is the impact on others. When someone comes to me, just the other day, Christy, somebody called me, a friend of mine who bought the book, called me, said, I did not want to send an email. I wanted to call you and tell you how grateful I am for the book. And the book has all these dog things, and I'm going to read it again. And my wife told me, I've never seen you so obsessed with a book. That's for me productive joy. My ability to inspire someone, to leave them with the thought that maybe will lead them to make a change. That's the ultimate joy for me. So for me, the productive component is the ability to impact other people, to provide them with inspiration. And my style is I'm like holding people to the fire and I'm saying, there's a better version of you out there, and you're not letting that better version of you out.
Yeah.
It's time for that better version to come out of your shell. Stop with your fears, stop hiding behind your biases and paradigms and fears and so on and so forth. There's a better version out there that the world needs, and you're going to have to bring it out.
Yeah. Oh, Lior, you're my new best friend. Like, I just am, I feel like we're singing from the same songbook, and all the things you're saying are so accurate and true. And I
Thank you.
love that you've chosen to put them in written form so that other people can learn from what you've learned over the years. I think it's honestly selfish to keep a book on the inside if you feel you have one, because somebody needs it. And like you said, we're a gift. And if we're not giving that gift, then what good is it? A gift that never gets opened is not useful. It's not serving anyone. I do, unfortunately, have a finite amount of time and I can't talk to you forever. However, I could certainly bring you back because we didn't talk about next is now or the experience or exceptionalize it or passionate and profitable or customer experience strategy, like your other books out there that you're clearly very prolific in what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just so grateful that our paths have crossed. But we have some rapid fire questions. Are you excited to tell us all the things?
I'm ready for it. Go ahead.
And I'm going to ask you a bonus question because you said something about being a watch enthusiast and that the reason was a cool one. So why don't you start by telling us why watches?
So watches are about time. It's about our relationship with time. And I think we don't appreciate time. We take it too lightly. We don't celebrate time. For me, watches is a way to celebrate time, to appreciate the time that I have, to make it meaningful. And my wife every so often laughs at me, oh, I cannot wear this is too expensive of a watch. I'll lose it right away. And I said, it's not about losing the watch, it's about losing the time. And I'm celebrating the time. For
Mm,
me, it's about putting emphasis and finding a manifestation or an expression that helped me appreciate the time that I have.
that is beautiful. I love that. And that's a nugget of wisdom worth dropping. So thank you for that reminder. Okay, here we go. Question number one. What is your definition of fun?
My definition of fun is a good piece of chocolate and good music together.
Nice. Chocolate and music. What's your genre of choice for music?
And for music, oh, I'm so eclectic. It's unbelievable. I can listen to anything from Ed Sheeran to Billy Joel and everything in between.
That's my husband. My husband, his playlist is schizophrenic. Like you're just like, what? Wait, did we just do Snoop Dogg and then, like you said, Ed Sheeran and Edwin McCain? And okay, off we go. And where would you purchase your chocolate?
Switzerland, almost for sure, with an extension to Paris every so often. I'm very snobbish about that. You cannot just push a Hershey on me. I'm
Ooh,
sorry.
no, no. My husband and I went to Switzerland last year and we experienced Swiss chocolate, true Swiss chocolate. My grandmother used to always buy Swiss chocolate because she was from there. But yeah, until you've had it,
And
that's
and
a
and of course, Belgium. Pierre Marcolini is considered to be one of the best chefs in chocolate. The guy actually signs his pieces.
wow.
Pierre Marcolini, definitely. If you haven't tried it, go try it.
Okay, good to know. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
When I have butterflies in my stomach, it's one
Mm,
of the things that I hate when people tell me, "Oh, you're gonna wing it on stage. You're gonna do," and I said to them, "No, if I don't have butterflies in my stomach, I take my audience for granted, and that's not a good place to be." It's like Bruce Springsteen coming with his best hits, and he knows they're gonna have fun with them, and I'm saying you're not connecting with the audience if you don't have butterflies because you're not watching who are you actually in front of.
yeah, it's got to matter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
I actually do an interesting exercise, which is I'm reading thank you notes that I received in the past from people to remind me that I am capable even in my worst days.
Mm, I love that. My mother taught me well that you always send a thank you note, and my poor children have been forced every time they've ever been given a gift to write a thank you because there's just something special that it takes to put pen to
Yeah.
paper. So I love that. All right, last question. And this is going to be so hard because, Lior, you have said magical things. But people are funny about how their brains work. And so they tend to hold on to one thing. So if there is one thing that people can remember from our time together, what's the one thing you would really want them to walk away with?
Being cynical is a choice that leads you on a path to victimhood. You're going to hate the future and you're going to have a lot of people to blame for it.
Mm.
And every day and every moment you make a cynical choice, you put yourself on one path as opposed to the other path. So my challenge to people is live life of victory, not life of victimhood, and make the choice every day.
Live a life of victory and not of victimhood. My goodness, is that good advice, regardless of what you do for a living, do every day, who you are. It's a fabulous reminder that we do have victory and we tend to waller in the stuff we can't control instead of focusing on what we can influence. Thank you. Thank you for choosing a life where you learned a bunch of lessons And every time you learn one, you share it with others and you write it down, thankfully, so that other people can see it. And you're changing the world one book at a time. And I am so honored that our paths crossed and that we got to be a part of this together. So thank you. Of all, time is important to you. I know this. You've just shared it. And yet you chose to spend time with the Productive Joy family. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was wonderful to have this conversation. Thank you.
Really fun, really fun. And for all of our Productive Joy listeners, y'all, this was a masterclass in so many things. Don't be a victim. Figure out how to find victory and recognize that is something you have a whole lot of influence over. Today and every day, you know that my goal for you is to walk away with something that you can use right away. And today, I don't think it's going to be hard for you to pick. The hardest part is going to be to pick which thing. So thank you so much for listening today. If you're not already following the podcast, please do. And as always, my challenge to you is to figure out a way to turn fun into action.